Hello.
Commissioner Richardson?
This is he. I would just like the record to show that we have a quorum of Commissioner Thayer and I at the public hearing room at the county building. The AV equipment in this location is not working, so we are going to recess. It's 9:01, and we'll reconvene at the Ag building at the fairgrounds at 9:10. So.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that, and we'll be over shortly. Thanks.
Alrighty, good morning, folks. I appreciate you putting up with the short delay. I know you could only hear us, but we actually were at the noticed location of the meeting at our conference room. We weren't gallivanting around at Patty Ann's or anything. So thanks for coming out today. I do want to more formally start the meeting and ask Father Stearns to come forward and provide an invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for having me. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we look forward to recalling the birth of your Son and look forward to his coming again in glory, we give you thanks for the blessings that you bestow upon us, individually, upon our families, upon our county. As we begin this meeting, we ask that you grant wisdom and prudence to the supervisors as they, deriving all authority from you, govern the people of this county, that they may make wise decisions for the benefit of all. As we approach the Christmas season, we remember those who go without or go with less and ask that their needs be provided by the people of Hands of Goodwill. We ask you also to watch over our first responders as this season can become a little more dangerous than normal for them, that they may be blessed and may return home at the end of their shift to their families. Continue to bless the county of Elbert. Continue to bless the families and the people that reside herein and those who pass through, that all of them may arrive safely at their destinations, that they may live peaceably, and all may give glory to you and assist their neighbors according to your will. We ask all this through Christ our Lord. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Father. Alrighty, I guess it's about 9:12. We're certainly out of recess, but Emily, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Thayer? Here. Commissioner Richardson?
Here.
Commissioner Schroeder?
Here.
Thank you.
All righty, we have a quorum. First item of business we have today is approval of the agenda. I would accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, the motion passes. We've adopted our agenda. First items of business are items on consent, just general housekeeping matters. I would accept a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the items on the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All righty. Moving on to elected officials, department head, staff reports. Do we have any elected officials that have reports today? Seeing none, any staff reports for items not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to open public comment. This is an opportunity for folks in attendance or that have previously arranged to call in to provide public comment on matters that aren't specifically addressed on the agenda today. If you have questions, we may not have an answer for you, but we'll direct them to staff. If it's simply a comment on an issue, it's something that we may take up on a later agenda, but I do appreciate all coming out today. We had several people that did sign up. The first being Carrie Giblets. Carrie, good morning.
Good morning. Carrie Giblets, 19656 Wiedemeyer Road, on the board of Elbert County Environmental Alliance. I've been hearing a lot of rumblings from some of our members about some legislation that some of our state legislators have been working on, a bill that would take away land use authority from counties that are not allowing green energy. And I wondered if you had any information on that, and also how would that affect your ability to deal with the Excel issue? Secondly, I saw a public notice just this week that a major 1041 designation was given to a solar power generation complex that is being proposed down near Matheson. So I reached out to several of our members, and they're totally unaware of this project. So I don't know if you have any information that we can share on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Sorry, Don Gray.
Don Gray, 16,000 Highway 86. Morning, Commissioners, elected officials. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. Listening is what I want to talk about today. Over the last week, I spent most of it listening to more than 20 individuals that are affected by this XL power line. Those landowners have a lot of concerns, but I just sat back and I said, I need to listen to what they're saying. And this is what I heard. I heard eminent domain, statutory survey, condemnation, 1041 regulations, assessments, high impact studies, executive sessions, carbon credits, carbon offsets, carbon-free electricity by 2050, green energy. And of course, I heard about the Board of County Commissioners. So I sat back and I said to myself, what would this conversation have been 2.5 years ago? And my thoughts were that we'd be talking about the weather. We'd be talking about the cattle market, politics, who's going to fix the fence between us, best large animal vet, what are the wheat prices, what's the hay prices, the drought, and of course we always would talk about the Board of County Commissioners. My hope is that we can convince the Board of County Commissioners to listen to all the concerns from the past and from the present and speak to how we can slow down, how can I say this politically correct, how can we slow down government overreach? And I believe that XL is a quasi-governmental agency that is overreaching their bounds. And our last defense seems to be the common thread to both of these, which is the Board of County Commissioners. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tim and Peggy Petzkowski. I hope I got that close to correct.
Can't talk. So. Oh, okay. We are Tim and Peggy Petzkowski. We live at 950 County Road 133. XL's preliminary planning is to run their towers across the very east end of our property, which butts up against Kansas Cemetery, and to cross County Road 6, and then come straight west on County Road 6 with their towers, which would put the towers within 700 feet of our house. But this is a letter that an email, we have yet to send this email to each one of you, but that we will.
Okay.
So I'm just going to read it. That would be the easiest. In 2004, Tim wrote this. In 2004, I was browsing the Mile Saver, as I used to do. I came across an ad for some property. Didn't see where it was. I heard a little voice in the back of my mind say, "Go see this place." I jumped in my pickup, took off, got a half mile from the house, and realized I didn't know where I was going. Went back, got my phone, called the number listed, and the realtor told me where it was. The Kansas Cemetery borders the property. I parked at the corner of the cemetery and the property in question, crawled through the fence, and as a Native American might term it, the land reached up and wrapped its arms around me and said, "Welcome home." I'm not an Indian, I'm Polish. And then I called the realtor and asked where and when I could talk to them. Since I was a child playing with my Tonka toys behind the trees at the little farm we lived on at that time, I wanted a place in the country. I was preteen at the time. I am now 72. I bought the place because I wanted to have the home of those childhood dreams. I bought the land and proceeded to create or recreate my dreams. My wife and I now live in that home. My dreams had no huge power lines running over it. It took me 40 years or more to see my dreams to see them come real. I've been here now 20 years and loving it. And I hope to die here. A neighbor told us recently this is the third attempt by Excel to do this. I was here the last time. I didn't know it the first. We got rid of them the last time. At least we thought we got rid of them. They said they would run down Highway 71 where no one lives. Now they are back, nastier than the last time. All those representing Excel. They keep telling us that no matter what we think about it, how we feel about it, it is going to happen.
Commissioners,
I'm so
that's
angry
3
I don't
minutes.
sleep well at all, which affects our overall and well-being now and will have a lasting effect the rest of our lives. The entity called Excel is going to destroy my dreams, and I have no say about it. The piddly amount of money they have offered isn't enough. No amount of money is enough. The existing Rush Creek project is an additional option. Excel should run its power lines along Highway 71 where no one cares about its present, like they said they would do 20 years ago. I've given much thought about certain histories of America, namely what white man did to the Native Americans, the people who were indigenous to this country. White people came from overseas, decided they wanted everything they could see, and proceeded to take it away from the original Native Americans with the help of the government from the United States of America. Running roughshod over all of us who own land along their route for this power line sounds to me just like what white people and our government did to those years ago to the people who lived here for hundreds of years before any of us came.
Commissioners, that's 4 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. And you said you were going to send that letter to us as well? I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Yeah. And we have John Mott.
Thank you. John Mott, 18087 County Road 150. One, I wanted to thank the county commissioners for this opportunity. In light of what I've seen in other areas where the county commission seemed to just roll over and let projects go through, one of them I talk about is that I'm part owner of a cattle ranch in Montana, and just across the fence there's some huge We're talking 600-foot wind towers. And I know one of the things that they talked about before they ever put those in was all of the jobs that were going to be brought into the county. So this is an isolated road. It's between Miles City, Montana and Jordan, Montana, and it's a 2-lane county road or state road, but it is isolated, maybe one truck a half hour. I went out one morning and it took me 15 minutes to get onto the road because of all the traffic. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching all of the trucks go by, 1-ton, 3/4-ton pickups, which are very fuel efficient and, you know, green and everything else. And almost without exception, all of them were out-of-state license plates. Rarely were one of them ever a Montana. I mean, we all understand what the power lines are here for. The transmission line is to be able to eventually tap into either wind turbines and solar power, and I'm adamantly opposed to wind turbines, having witnessed them. For those of us that are, you know, years ago, 40 years ago, we used to see these ads on television about pollution, and one of them was site pollution. And we never hear about site pollution anymore. About, you know, one of the reasons a lot of us live out here is that if I could even get farther out and still get into town, I would. But it's that ability to see the view in the distance. I've lived back east where you can't, there's so many trees and stuff, you can't see, and it was always a joy for me to be able to get on a hill and be able to just see distance. The last thing I want to see are all these wind turbines in the distance or up close. Some of them are within several hundred yards of the ranch house now. The other thing is, and I've got a photo of it, I took a trip recently to Iowa for personal reasons, and I came back, and it was one thing I don't think another thing we talk about. I understand this is wind turbines and not transmission, but we know that this is all tied in. And I've got a photo of a wind turbine. It's only got 2 propellers on it and completely burned out. And so I'm wondering how much, when it burned out, basically when the bearings burned out, how much fire it threw out. And we're always worried about a fire hazard in this country, and how much when those go out, and go through the country and watch those wind turbines, see how many of them have oil leaks, and so, you know, how environmentally friendly those are. The last thing is that, let's be really clear about this. This is not about clean energy. This is about money. I do know that, and this is secondhand, but the amount of money, there's a huge project, and these are similar across the country, so it's not just in one place, but I just happen to know about that. The amount of money that they were given before they even put one wind turbine in entered into the billions. This is before they ever get paid for any power, and up there it's really different, and I didn't realize that a lot of those contracts were done with the landowners in the 90s, and they're so onerous that they basically control all the land underneath those wind turbines, and almost without exception, every landowner that they're putting wind turbines on have said if they knew what it was going to be like, they would never have signed the contract. But this was in the 90s.
That's 4 minutes.
All right, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We do have one other person signed up, but since the comments so far have been on Excel, is there anybody that did not sign up to speak that has any comments on that subject? If you could, ma'am, you had your hand up first. Yep. Yep, please come on up.
Sorry, I don't do a lot of speaking. So.
Oh, no, that's quite all right.
I'm just going to read off of this, okay?
Okay. If we could get
okay, I moved out here 35 years ago.
Okay.
I'm from 27512.
If we could get your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For the
My name
record.
is Tracy Brewer.
Okay.
And it's 27512 Plainview Drive. I live in Forest Ridge. And I'm fully opposed to the Excel proposal. So here are some of my concerns. The power lines going through along E6 through Kiowa will be way too close to our community. There will be a negative impact on the value of our homes and land. There will also be a huge impact to the wildlife. They kill birds and eagles at an alarming rate of 368,000 a year, proven by statistics from many states and countries. In addition, there is a Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act that states if you take, pursue, wound, kill, or disturb these birds, you can be fined up to $10,000 or go to jail up to 2 years. Turbines have a downstream assault on our beautiful ecosystem. Now let's go into the health issues that they cause. A host of people that are living near these turbines are experiencing headaches, ringing ears, insomnia, nauseousness, seizures, ear pressure, and vertigo. I myself am experiencing many of these. In addition, we will be generating several wind turbine landfills. They found out in 2022 they were replacing 3,800 blades per year. Wind turbines are not biodegradable. They can't be crushed, recycled, or even refurbished. This, to say the least, is a massive waste and again impacts the land which we discard them on. Wind turbines are not cheap. They are very expensive. So who is covering this cost? It will be us, the taxpayers. They use water to run. This again impacts us right now. We already have a water shortage out here with all the houses that are being built. They cause fires, like in the Marshall Fire. I will conclude with this. I am asking you to do the right thing for Elbert County residents by opposing the path for Excel and their supposed clean energy. In the research I will give you, I will send it to you, okay? There's just too many disadvantages to what Excel is proposing. This will change our whole way of country life. We will have to look at these things every day, not to mention the red lights that come from them. We will also have to deal with the side effects and loss of our ecosystem. I will be emailing the rest of it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir?
Chuck Hughes, 19753 Weedemeyer Road, Elbert County. Just a real quick comment. Anybody see 60 Minutes Sunday night? Nobody's nodding their head. They did a segment on the governor of Wyoming, Mark somebody or another. They really built him up to look like a hero. His stated energy policy was pretty much all of the above. And they pointed repeatedly to a site that they want to put a monster wind turbine farm in. And they've got it all planned out. They had another executive from some energy company. They're going to do transmission lines all the way from Wyoming to California at the cost of trillions of dollars. But that looks to me like a nice solution if they can fly in Wyoming. Lots of land, and it's a lot shorter from Wyoming to Denver than it is from Wyoming to California. But the other side is, as we know, he'll be lucky to get 4 votes in Wyoming next year, or whenever his term is up. The lefties running 60 Minutes loved him, made him look like he's a Republican, made him look like the most wonderful thing ever, and I bet he doesn't get reelected. So, but we would love to have those wind turbines that we quote unquote love so much. Wyoming's a good place for them. So, and let your counterparts in Larimer and Weld County deal with those transmission lines. Better them to deal with it than you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Did we have anything else on Excel, sir? Oh, okay. Well, go back to the list and then I'll come to you, sir. Maggie Weatherby.
Hello, Maggie Witherby, 44447 Homestead Road. And I'm coming about a quite different topic, but it's one that we started talking about in August of 2020, and that is the COVID operation. And today I'd like to make a request for the county commissioners, and the Elbert County Stands Up Health Team would like to meet with you and review some of the most recent information and evidence about the COVID injections. Recently, there has been a release of some information from New Zealand, which is particularly important. A gentleman over there who worked in the health ministry released some data that their government was very upset that he made public. Let me read a little bit from an article by Steve Kirsch. It's finally here. Record level data showing vaccine timing and death rate. There is no confusion any longer. The vaccines or injections are unsafe and have killed on an average of 1 person per 1,000 doses. No state or country has ever released record level public health data on any vaccine. The reason the data is kept simple or secret is simple. It exposed the fact that the COVID injections are unsafe, as well as all the vaccines I have been able to get record level data on. Thanks to the courageous whistleblower who works at the New Zealand Ministry of Health, we have record level information from a large population of all ages and are making it public for the first time. It's staggering information. The video that came out went, I think, around the world in probably 2 seconds. We have this information. We have a lot of other information. We would like to sit down with you again. It's been a while since we've talked about this. I don't know if you gentlemen, and I've forgotten whether, have I given you this book? Okay, I'm going to give you the copy of this book. It's called Cause Unknown: The Epidemic of Sudden Deaths in 2021 and 2022. Ed Dowd put this together based on insurance industry information and data, showing that the excess mortality in these 2 years and continuing into 2023 is certainly excessive, and there is a reason for that. So again, I will get in touch with you. We'd like to sit down with you and present a wide array of information that we have. And we thank you for listening and being willing to talk about this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maggie. Okay. Sir, we had yourself? Yes.
My name is Warren Listle, Listul, 23103 County Road 73. Mine's short and sweet. I just wonder, is there an anticipated start date on County Road 112 between Freese and 73? It washed out on June 12th and still barricades up. It's going to be a big job, I know, and it's not a real highly traveled road. I get that as well. But anyway, I'm just wondering if there's an answer somewhere.
Alrighty, thanks, sir. I think we can probably
thanks.
get that while you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do we have anybody else that wanted to make public comment today? Okay, and Emily, we had nobody that submitted written or wanted to be called? No? Okay, thanks. So with that, I'll close public comment. I guess working backward, I know our Public Works Director is here today to talk about another issue, but I think he can link up with you at the end on timing. We did purposely delay because that was such a large project. There'll be FEMA reimbursement. There's always a risk if we start doing work before they have eyes on that they'll deny reimbursement. So we're trying to balance keeping traffic moving throughout the county and frankly using other people's money if we can to get the roads fixed. So, but if Monty, if you could touch base with them, and if you've got any specifics on timeline, I'd appreciate that. Maggie, do appreciate the invite. We'll get that set up. I'd like to find a time when we could sit down and perhaps bring our medical officer, Dr. John Duvall, into that conversation. All right, so for Excel, for those that haven't been to previous meetings, generally we'll give a quick update. Right now we are still awaiting a actual formal application. We have not received one at this point. I don't think there's been any communication with them that I'm aware of. I'm getting head nod from our CDS director, but where we are at this point is obviously they've held their public meetings such as they are. They had a pre-app meeting. There was information from staff sent back to them saying, for your formal application, here is the laundry list of things that we will want to see if and when a formal application is made. Again, since that point, there's been silence. Once that application, if it is submitted, once it's received, the county has 28 days for staff to review that initial formal submission. We do have several subject matter experts in various areas in terms of environmental. You can kind of, I know we have environmental, we certainly have folks that are just land use planners, but several folks in the wildlife safety that are kind of on tap. So if and when that application occurs, we've got people to dig through it in detail, and we have 28 days to go back and request additional information or what we feel would make it complete. Again, then the ball goes back into Excel's court to make sure that they're addressing all of those things before we get an application back. And that could happen more than once before we have what we believe is a complete application. At that point, hearings will be scheduled. I think we all appreciate folks coming in, because the more we hear, again, there's consistent concerns, but there's also very specific ones that are brought up, and that allows us to kind of make sure we've got the right people on tap to look at those specific portions of any application that we do receive. So I'd love to tell you what the timeline is, but again, right now the ball's in Excel's court. We get a brief look at it. Once it returns to us, and it'll go back to them, but they've been silent for a couple of months now. So there has been quite a bit about Excel in the news throughout the nation. I know we've gotten some information that they're between grants and their own money, they're putting $250 million into fire mitigation. They included Colorado as part of that, so I think there's conversations that can arise if and when they come back to us on areas like that. I have heard that they've made some very, I guess, lucrative offers to some landowners, and then some of those offers were rescinded. And I don't believe there's a lot of uptake amongst the people of this county and voluntarily offering up their land. And I think as long as that seems to be the vast majority of properties they're looking at, that seems to have slowed them down. So I would just have some faith, be very clear in what your expectations are and what your desires are when and if they contact you. And we'll keep moving along with that. I do recognize, Mr. Hughes, that if the windmills are in Wyoming, the transmission lines wouldn't come through us to get to Denver. So, I love our funds in Wyoming, but anywhere but here is probably better. In terms of the jobs that come along with those being transient and generally not local, we saw that with the Rush Creek project. I mean, it was a good period of time for the motel out in Simla, but once the project was built, that clientele departed. In terms of the potential legislation that Carrie mentioned, we had heard about that at our winter conference with our fellow commissioners earlier in the month. there is somebody proposing it. They're basing it on what they feel are two counties that are standing in their way, one being Washington County, which has a 1 mile setback, but it's a big county and you can work around a mile if you really want to. The other, which I thought was kind of strange, was Weld County, and particularly there's 23 projects they've approved. There were 3 they denied. The 3 they denied were because of their proximity to municipalities and really valid concerns on the interaction and traffic and whatnot with their fellow local governments. So to base statewide legislation on 3 out of 26 projects being denied in one county, it just isn't right. And I can assure you that if there's one thing we fight for within this county and as a collection of counties across the state is maintaining our local control. We did so successfully during the last session when the governor proposed taking over land use statewide. That was actually successfully killed in the Senate. But that sort of thing is going to come back, and it's going to keep coming back. So we will certainly make sure your voices are heard at the Capitol, and they're going to be hearing ours regularly. They're already tired of hearing from me, I know. But on the proposal or potential for a solar farm in the Matheson area, there's not an application yet. They've discussed with staff what they'd like to do, which is a 200 megawatt facility, and that was the initial conversation in terms of would that be a major or a minor 1041. It would be a major, so all the steps and wickets and things that we expect people to look at in terms of the life, health, and safety issues, wildlife, environmental, that we are with the XL power line, they would be going through as well if they proceed. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
There's not really much to add there. They showed up in my office last Thursday and kind of tried to go on a goodwill tour, I guess is the best way to describe it. One of the things I did ask is, what are they going to do for infrastructure? I was thinking maybe they were somehow related to the XL. And they said, no, they would tie into an existing power line. And I said, how long would that take you? And they said, 4 to 5 years. And I says, you're going to negotiate and it takes you 4 to 5 years? Apparently, they said dealing with the power companies, the power line transmission, is at least a 2 to 3 year negotiating period. So like Chris just said, they don't have an application, and I think they're in the feel-good phase right now. They come around, they talk to me, they're very nice and all that kind of stuff. I asked them where it was, and they showed me a map. And I says, that's down in an area where you have multi-generational families. And yes, this would be located on one of those. And one of the interesting things is one of the multi-generational family members called me last night, and the family is not united in how they would like to see this come. So there's a lot of stuff that we'll have to evaluate. We'll have to see if it's real. It's the company that's doing it is a German company. There's quite a lot of things that time will tell. But we don't even have even a pure meeting with our planning department in terms of a preliminary meeting and understanding and all of this kind of stuff. So my guess, and notice I didn't say I know, my guess is that it's going to be a long time out. And I don't mean a long time out as in this. I mean a time out in terms of how long it'll take them to do it. That's about all I've got to say.
Anything else? Yeah, please.
So I guess I should have made this comment during elected time, but since I'm a citizen, I guess I can talk now too. I just want to congratulate Commissioner Richardson for being appointed to a 19-member panel, statewide panel, to address our property tax issues that we're experiencing in the state. The only good thing that came out of the special session and the legislation then was the formation of this board that will be meeting and making recommendations on going forward on property tax. And we are fortunate that Commissioner Richardson was appointed to represent the Eastern Plains. And I know he'll be a strong voice in protecting the values here and in moving forward with a plan that makes sense. And so just want to say thank you to Commissioner Richardson for willing to step and take on that extra work. So look forward to what comes from there.
Thank you. All righty. Again, if we didn't address a specific issue that was brought up, I know there were several new people here today. Please be assured that we are listening. If you have concerns, please feel free to share them, get them to us. We don't have a formal application, so we can talk a lot more freely. Once a formal application is received, we really have to step back as commissioners and await public hearing and only make decision on items that are presented or available to all parties during the public hearing. So please be assured that if we go radio silent at some point in the process, it's not because we don't care or we no longer want to listen to our citizens. It's because of the legalities surrounding public hearings for land use. We just can't engage once an application is formally received. It's just kind of in terms of regular court cases, it would be like our county judge talking to somebody about their traffic accident that he's going to be ruling on in court in the safe way. Those conversations have to take place in the courtroom. So, alrighty. So moving on, we'll move to our discussion items. The first couple we have are related to the building department, and the first is a discussion regarding contractor licensing and fees. And good morning, Mark. Good morning, JR.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chair, commissioners, other elected officials, staff, fellow citizens. I'm Mark Denreader, Director of Community and Economic Development. With me is James J.R. Trout, our Building Department Manager and Chief Building Official. Here to talk about contractor licensing fees, building permit fees, and also building codes briefly. First, with contractor licensing fees, these were adopted in January of this year. And prior to adopting the contractor license program, we actually went out and surveyed surrounding jurisdictions just to see what they were doing and where we landed in terms of the fee cost was either the same as our counterparts or less. The cost is based on the license type, so it's anywhere between $100 and $125 for this contractor license fee. It is an annual renewal. Thus far in 2023, $55,000 has been collected for these fees. Now, this figure is particularly high in part due to the hail event that took place, or maybe even more than one event in June this past summer. I'd like to share just a couple statistics here with you. If you look at our 652 total licenses issued, over half were to roofing contractors. And then if you take a look at all of our building permits issued as of 12/1 of this year to date basically, 70% were re-roofs. So that's where we are on licensing fees. I'll pause there and see if you have any comments or questions, gentlemen. Thank you, commissioners.
Just to tee it up, part of what generated this discussion is during the budget process, recognizing how much money came in from licensing. When you're trying to build a budget, it's nice to see revenue, but since this is fee-based, it seems to be generating more than the cost to administer the program, which is generally when you're talking about fees and not trying to just, we have a lot of conversations in Colorado about what is a tax and what is a fee, and fees are supposed to generally just cover the service you're receiving. So it seems to be a little more than the overhead. I want to make sure that we're not just charging money because we can. I don't think there's any ill intent at all. And I know we benchmarked off of neighboring counties, but you know that's a good starting point. But I do think we need to be looking at this a little bit before we set our schedule of fees for next year. Do we want to extend this to perhaps a 2-year license or some other scheme? I don't want to. Scheme is a horrible word to use. Some other process. I just want to make sure we are not inadvertently overcharging. Like I said, the concept I think is good. It provides some protection to our citizens. It ensures that somebody who is doing work that's been engaged by a citizen to do contract work for them has the proper insurances, and if claims are made, they're not left holding the bag, especially when it comes to roof repairs, and folks come from all over the place, all over the nation when a hailstorm hits, and we will make sure our folks are protected, but at the same time, we don't want to add burden of cost to our citizens as well, or our small businessmen, if what they're getting for the fee isn't really made up for in an equivalent service to them. So, I mean, we certainly want to cover the cost of the program, but I'll leave it at that.
I would echo that, and when we look at fees like this, it ends up just being a pass-through onto the homeowner eventually. That's the insurance cover or whatever, but it still just turns a pass-over because the roofing companies and whoever else is getting these are still going to have their profit margin that they're going to have to maintain, and so it really just gets to be a pass-on. So I echo what Chris said. We just need to make sure that we're covering our costs, not being put in place an undue burden on our citizens. And I also think programs like this tend to maybe not encourage, but it certainly elevates the possibility that fly-by-nighters can come in over the weekend, get things done, and just because they don't want to deal with the county. So that's something that I think is a consideration also. And so I'm concurrent here with Chris that we need to take a look at the length of time or the amount or something.
I do have one question for those that, I know we don't require a homeowner that's doing their own work to be licensed. They still have to pull a permit, and they have the inspectors make sure what they're doing is safe and adequate. But for a professional contractor that has a license, is there, when you're looking at the value received for paying for that license, is there any relief on the inspections required? Do we say, okay, you've passed the test, you're licensed, we trust you to not have to come out and have us look at so there's no break on that? Or?
No, it's the whole purpose is for homeowner and citizen protection.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think we just need to look at the numbers a little closer, and I think potentially extend it to a 2-year license versus a 1. I think we're still going to probably we have a certain number of contractors that do their work in this county exclusively and have forever and will likely forevermore, and then we have a lot of folks that come in for one project from the metro area. So I think we're still going to see new licenses regularly. But I just would ask for a recommendation at the next meeting before we set schedule if we want to extend the time period for the license, or if there's something we're missing here that would indicate that managing the program is more costly than $60,000 a year.
Yep. Thank you very much for your comments, duly noted, and we will certainly look into it and report back. Thank you.
Thanks.
If I may, Mr. Chair, move on to building permit fees.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. We're looking at Q1 of next year to do some updates. We do an annual review of fees every year. We're also looking at Q1 of next year to consider updating the building codes. The last time the building code was adjusted was April of 2022, and it really makes sense to adopt fees with the codes to make it seamless and just an easier transition from the old to the new, basically. For the building codes, we would be reaching out to stakeholders to get input. And then we are looking at updating to the 2024 codes, essentially. And that's all we have on those items, and obviously here for additional questions as needed.
I appreciate the comment of reaching out to stakeholders in there. I have been in contact with several folks too when that kind of bubbled up here a little bit ago that would certainly like to be interested in that, or if we could see kind of what the proposal will look like, that we can get to some folks that are concerned about it. I think we need to make sure that we're including them, and I appreciate that concept as we move forward. And it's not just coming top down, but the people that are out there trying to make a living under these codes, how it's going to affect them is important. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
I would also ask in that outreach to talk to the incorporated towns and the fire districts, and if we can keep some consistency of requirements throughout the county, incorporated and unincorporated, I think is best. I think in our last update, most of the fire districts went to 18 with us, and I believe Elizabeth and Kiowa did as well. I'm not sure about Semla, but I think it eases confusion if we've got folks that are doing work within the towns or outside the towns. Thank you. Do you have any public comment or input on this subject? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Mark. Much
Great, thank you,
appreciated.
commissioners.
All righty. Next item we have was discussion of a potential renewal of the flock camera contract. This is a contract that is in place currently that the sheriff's office has executed. Oh, welcome. Yeah. So, Tim, if you could, for the crowd, just kind of an overview of what flock is, how you're using it. And,
yes, sir. Tim Norton, Elbert County Sheriff. The flock camera system, it's a system that we have 9 cameras in the county. There's over 300 in the state of Colorado as we speak. It's used to deter crime, stolen vehicles, wanted people, stolen license plates, information that we may put into the system to look for. Perfect example, we had a serious crime last week out east. We put a license plate of a person of interest on this case. We got 2 hits within the first day. We were able to track that person down, bring him in for interviews. I can't really talk about too much more about it because the case is still ongoing, but that is a perfect example of how we can use Flock. Flock does not take pictures of faces, does not take pictures of people, does not do any facial recognition. It's a picture of a license plate on the rear of a vehicle. That plate then is sent to the deputies' computers. They have to do cop work on top of that. They have to check with dispatch to make sure it is still a stolen vehicle in the system. Maybe it got delayed not being taken out. Everything has to be verified through either dispatch, our investigations, or that deputy's investigations before we can do any action towards what we're looking for, whatever reason we're looking for that particular vehicle. If we come across the vehicle, let's just say we have a flock hit on Kiowa Bennett Road of a possible stolen vehicle, and we are able to find that vehicle in a timely manner. We still have to clear dispatch. Is this vehicle still stolen? Are they still wanting this vehicle before we do any law enforcement action on that vehicle whatsoever? If it is verified it is still a valid stolen through dispatch, then we take appropriate manners on trying to stop that vehicle and taking the person driving that vehicle into custody. I think the incident from last week from out east is a perfect example why we need flock in Elbert County. You all know that it's widespread county. You all know that we don't have that many deputies that can respond in that timely of a manner. But the seriousness of that crime and us able to find a person of interest that much quicker is going to help us with this investigation tremendously. I know Commissioner Schroeder, he's reached out to Flock itself. I hope your questions were answered, and I'm here, Dave's here, if we could possibly answer any of the other questions you may have after speaking to the Flock representative.
Dallas?
No, I appreciate what the local enforcement can do with the flock camera. And I understand your procedures and are good. My concern, as we've reiterated throughout all of this discussion, is not with our local sheriff's office, our local law enforcement, but it's other issues perhaps out of our control. And there's some things where it's stored. There's some things that could be used. That's where my concern has been. So I appreciate what you guys do with it, but I still have some concerns, and I can go over those later. But I think it's beyond the local level of where my concerns are. I'm not concerned with the way that you guys are utilizing it and the checks and balances that you have.
Any other questions?
No, and I guess as you can see, we do struggle with this. I mean, absolutely recognize that it is a tremendous tool for law enforcement. I think the concerns are more of the civil liberties side of the ability that it could give others or those that we don't trust to track our citizens, to look at who showed up at a certain rally, cars that were passing by. I think in Dallas's conversations, they did indicate that I think the standard is maintaining data for 30 days. I guess they indicated that was a compromise because there were some law enforcement agencies that wanted it kept for a year or perhaps more. I think, honestly, we'd be more comfortable with the shortest amount of time that makes sense. And they did indicate a willingness to be able to shorten the time period that any data is maintained for. But I don't know if you want how you want to proceed on this. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Can we hear from if there's any public comment?
Oh,
and then
certainly,
I'll
yeah.
go forward.
If there's anybody here that wanted to make comment on this. Maggie?
Hello again, Maggie Witherby, 44447 Homestead Road. You really, in the discussion, you kind of addressed some of the concerns that I've had and that we've had with Elbert County Stands Up. We tend to look again at the broad view, and we see, broadly speaking, the advance of a police state in our country and in other parts of the world. One excellent source of information is John Whitehead with the Rutherford Institute. He's an attorney out of Virginia. I'll send you some of his information, but he monitors the issue of the advancing police state very carefully, and he's a really good source of information. This has nothing, my comments, Tim, have nothing to do with our sheriff's department. I would gladly give them a fleet of F-15s if they wanted it, because we know that Tim Norton and his sheriff's department they understand our Constitution. They are working within our Constitution, and we know that they are a part of we the people. We don't have any concerns that they would use anything against we the people in Elbert County. I'm glad to see that the commissioners are taking a broader look at this in terms of the advancing surveillance that we see in our communities and in our country. So thank you very much. And Sheriff Norton, if you want those F-15s, if you need those, I'd be right there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Do those come with funding, Maggie? No, thank you. Enough gifts, yeah.
So this has been an ongoing concern for several months, and so this may take a few minutes. I think as a commissioner, I have a responsibility to explain my position to the citizens and including to other elected officials and staff. And so it may take a couple minutes here, but I would like to take that privilege to do so. I want to reiterate again that any question that I personally have against the flock cameras is not against our sheriff's office. It's not intended to be anti-law enforcement or be part of defund police, all the things that you hear out there. I think you can see from our budget that we do hold law enforcement in esteem here. A high percentage of our general fund budget does go to law enforcement. And so this is not intended to cast doubt on anything that our local law enforcement does. I just want to make that very, very clear. I did talk with a flock representative yesterday for about a half an hour. I had sent him a list of questions, concerns that I had on November 18th, and we're not getting much response from him. And the sheriff stopped in last week and asked if I had heard anything. I did not, and immediately within a half hour had an email from the undersheriff and requesting a contact for me. And so I do appreciate that from them. And we were able to make contact. You know how things are today. There's a lot of phone tag goes on. But we did make contact yesterday with the flock representative, and I appreciated his time as well. The concerns that I have with the flock camera revolve around basically a few issues. One, of course, is the retention of data. I feel that the basic 30 days of a license plate retention is too much, and it allows for in the eventual probability. I mean, everybody gets hacked, of this system being hacked, of being able to pattern people and to find out where they've been. These cameras, when they take the picture, it notifies the camera which camera took the picture by latitude and longitude. And so in an event, you can pinpoint exactly where that person is, and over a 30-day period definitely can be a pattern on how you are. There is an opportunity, and I'm not sure if our system is involved with this. The representative said our enforcement agencies were the ones that determined how broad our search are. It can be as much as national. It can be state. It can be just adjacent agencies that we also get notifications on, and we can put out for them. Even if a agency is not in the national search, there will still be a hit. They just won't get the image, and they will have to call that law enforcement agency where it was the hit took place in order to get that image. So it still is available nationwide. The data of this to me is vital, and the protection of it. And so I asked about how and where the data is uploaded. It's uploaded by FirstNet as a first choice, which is a first responder law enforcement network. And then if that doesn't work, they go to AT&T and T-Mobile. The data is stored in the cloud on an AWS government server. He gave me that information. And I did ask him about security issues and security protocol if and when there was a breach in that system. And he indicated that they would contact the local agencies as soon as they could to get that information. This boils down to a question of differences between freedom and liberty of movement versus security. And it's a tension that we all have. And finding the sweet spot there is sometimes difficult. Benjamin Franklin said those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And I understand that there's a little controversy on the context of that. But I think the basic premise is accurate. Benjamin Franklin had no idea that we'd have cars, let alone license plates, the picture would be made to track where people were. We all carry around a tracker all the time anyway, and I understand that. But that's our choice. It's not something that, as we go about our daily business, has happened. And so there's this tension. And given our current state of our country, the cameras really give me pause. And I'll try and explain why. I have a large book at home. It's about almost 3 inches thick. It's a large hardcover book, and it's called IBM and the Holocaust. And the basic premise of the book is that the Holocaust would not or could not have taken place in the scope that it did, the level that it did, without the assistance of technology. Now, we understand that the IBM system that was used way back there in the 30s was a punch card system. And so it had limited data available: name, address, gender, ethnicity, right? That's how they were able to go and round up the Jews. And without that, that's the basic premise of that book, is that would not have happened without the assistance, or not as easily anyway, without the assistance of IBM and their punch card system. And of course, the initial response, and even for me sometimes, is like, well, surely nothing like that can happen here. Why would we be concerned about something like that happening? Well, when you look at the history, and I'm a student of history. One of my degrees is in history, and I love reading about history. One of the first things that happens for persecution of any people's groups, regardless of what type or condition they are in, it starts out with rhetoric, trying to demonize them. And that happened in Nazi Germany against the Jews, and we're starting to see that creep into some language at our federal government level. Federal law enforcement calling parents who attend school board meetings domestic terrorists is concerning to me, as well as people in the highest levels of our government referring the same to MAGA Republicans as domestic terrorists. That's rhetoric that is extreme, and it's dangerous, and it's leading us down a bad path. To the point, even our former Secretary of State has said that MAGA Republicans need to be deprogrammed. That is very something that Communist China would be very proud to be part of. And so that the rhetoric becomes very troubling to me as we start seeing the demonizing of certain people, particularly those who don't agree with the government, and it becomes a problem. And then after the rhetoric becomes action, and whether it's the government or whether it's people who begin to take action on that rhetoric, it becomes more extreme and more limiting in people's freedoms. Mr. Gray spoke earlier about XL and the perceived government overreach there on what they're doing, and I see lots of that happening at our federal and state levels. Ms. Weatherby mentioned the idea that we're moving toward more of a police state. Here recently, within the last 6 weeks, Dinesh D'Souza has put out a movie called Police State. And going through and seeing how this rhetoric has now moved into action, and people who are opposing things that the federal government position are being arrested, or their homes are being raided. So I would encourage people that are concerned with that to find that movie, find that video, and watch it, because it's a little chilling to think that in the United States we have a government that is trying to limit freedom of speech, trying to limit freedom of thought, trying to stop people from expressing their opinion. And I think another part of this that falls into this is many of us in this room, I think, would agree that at times it certainly appears we have a two-tier justice system going on in this country. And that, once again, is another action item. So when a group is demonized, with rhetoric, and then the action becomes, and it becomes acceptable to treat that group differently than everyone else, it is what is troubling to me. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with my concerns and my questions about this flock system. As I understand, the contract runs through February before it is renewed, but we're looking at coming up on the end of the year for a new budget. And so, Mr. Chair, with your position, I'd like to move this to an action item today.
Okay. Do you have any issues with that? No, I have no issues with that.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a move that we void the current flock contract and do not appropriate any funds for the 2024 budget for the flock contract, with the understanding I would like to continue to sit down with our sheriff's office and see if we can come to a happy medium here.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to not appropriate, I guess if I could state it, not appropriate funds to continue the contract, recognizing it continues through February, and continue discussions.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So any further discussion up here?
Not for me.
Anything in the room? Okay. Seeing none, I think you can tell from Dallas's comments, and I hope from mine earlier, that this is one of those things that we struggle with. I mean, what's the proper role of government? How do we best serve our citizens? How do we best provide protections to our citizens? Certainly there was once a time when the federal government was far away and it was concerned with things like securing our borders, national defense, diplomacy, interstate commerce, and ma'am, I'll call on you in a moment. That certainly crept down into the state and local level. There was a time when local government, closest to the people, was the government that people went to. That was the government that people saw. Things have certainly changed. Within this county, within this room, there are people that have been visited by the FBI for just doing their job. I can assure you that there are a lot of people under the Gold Dome in Denver that look at Elbert County and scratch their heads and can't understand who we are, and we certainly don't understand who they are. But I think this is an appropriate step. I think there may be an accommodation we can reach that does allow some comfort. Certainly there is comfort in the fact that this is a contract that can be canceled if continued, but I think there's more discussions needed. I was a little concerned just to hear the term AWS government servers. AWS, for those that don't know, that's Amazon Web Services. Our IT director's, I guess, coming back off a well-deserved vacation today. I think he's back in-house. So there's some things and some answers that I think came back from Flock that we kind of want to run some common sense checks by and get some expert outside or internal opinion on the mechanics and I guess not the utility to law enforcement, but the actual management of data, protection of data, and therefore the protection of our folks. So, ma'am, you had a comment to make. If you could come up to the mic.
I'm Dee Valdez Pepper. My address is 25134 County Road 5. I was EMC for Dallas when he spoke about what he did with the Dominion voting machines on Thursday, August 18th. On Saturday, August 20th, we happened to be outside and 3 black SUVs with blacked out windows, 3 identical vehicles, drove by our house. Now, we're not along the beaten path. You have to go make a number of turns. And we were doing a variety of things to protect the rights of Americans in our county in particular and our state at that time. And the whole focus of intimidation by sharing information is definitely a concern. I also have a heightened awareness because I have a son who's in Shanghai, China, who's been a chemistry teacher out there for 13 years, and he's trying to get home. He doesn't want to be there anymore. So anytime Elbert County becomes more like Shanghai, China, I have a concern. We don't want to go in that direction. It's a slippery slope. And it's very slippery. It's very easy to give up our rights and to lose our rights a little bit at a time. I don't know who has watched Police State, but I know people who have been victimized by it. And if you tune into any alternative media, you can get lots of stories, personal stories of how people have been harassed and how their lives have been destroyed. It's a very constant thing. So I'm thankful for the idea of canceling the contract, and I totally support our Sheriff Norton and his awesome police force, our Sheriff's Department. I support them, but there has to be another way. We cannot give up so much freedom against our will without us even knowing, unless Dallas if he wouldn't have raised this issue, we wouldn't know. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, ma'am. So, was there any other comment? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the table to essentially not appropriate to continue the contract. And I think further discussion before any other action to cancel or renew with other restrictions. So I think
I'm good with that.
Okay, yeah. Just want to make sure we were clear what we were doing. So all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. All righty. A less controversial topic. Our next action item is consideration of minutes from our November 8th special meeting, which was our public hearing on the 2024 budget. I would accept a motion to... Oh, so sorry, Wani. All right, Public Works. I know folks were excited about the minutes, but no. Actually, this is...
What just went on anyway.
No,
so.
this is also a good news one. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Monty Hankins, Elbert County Public Works Director. Before you is a summary report concerning the proposal for you all to have discussion and or move towards approval of engineering for the 162 bridge out by Agate. This bridge is approximately 3/4 of a mile west of County Road 153, southwest of the town of Agate. On June 22nd of this year, several bridges and the East Bijou Creek saw extreme flooding down through that zone. We did have 2 bridges receive a little bit of damage. The major one is this 162 bridge. This bridge was constructed by the Army Corps of Engineers in 1965 after the 65 flood. It has inspected with CDOT every 2 years relatively well since then, but after this event, there was a pile. People don't really think of it as that. It's a pier structure underneath that was bent and twisted. Another cross brace under there is cracked. It's still safe for the traveling public, safe to travel across, but it's kind of unrealistic to think about replacing a bridge that was not meant to be a full-time permanent bridge structure. So that being said, right after the flooding, I did get with our contractor out of Denver engineering firm Kimley Horn to go out and inspect the bridge and give us their assessment. Based on their assessment, they would propose or recommend that we move towards having them engineer up a replacement for that bridge. Not 100% sure if that would be going back with large culverts, if that would be going back with a 2-lane bridge structure. What's unique about this 1-lane bridge, 65 flood bridge structure compared to the other ones in the county is this one comes at the bottom of a hill. You travel down a hill to this bridge. So even from that standpoint, going from a 2-lane down a hill to a 1-lane bridge structure is not the best scenario in the world. So there's several factors here. So for the Kimley Horn firm to do up a engineering workup of a bridge replacement is going to be several $100,000. This is an unbudgeted, unplanned for cost to the county. That's why we're bringing it before you today for assessment and possible approval. And then this is also on the Federal Highway Administration's radar. After the flooding, we initiated 2 sources of reimbursement funding from the federal government, the Federal Highway Administration and FEMA. This bridge is on both of their radar, but the Federal Highway Administration procedures and process has been much more lucrative, I guess I would say, in the reimbursement process. They've already committed to reimbursing 100% of 4 of the major flood projects that we performed already. And if we can get this engineering done by March 24th of 2024, therein lies the time-sensitive factor in it. If we can get this done by then, they will reimburse this dollar amount to 100% by that time. So that's why we're presenting this before you today.
Thank you, Monty. Questions from
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I used to own a lot of land right around this bridge, and getting farm and ranch equipment across the existing bridge was quite often a challenge. And sometimes you go around the bridge, down through the ditch, and up on the other side to get these. So, and we've got multiple of these kind of bridges out in the eastern part of Elbert County. And this one's in the worst shape right now, so it's obviously where we have to start. But I think over time, we're going to see multiplicity of the needs to replace some of those bridges. And I remember a funny story when I first got elected as county commissioner. Is somebody asked me when I was trying to get my swather across that bridge, they said, Grant, what do you think we should do with this bridge? And I said, I'm going to tell Road and Bridge to put up a sign on each side, do not pass on the bridge. The whole point is that it was old, and I think it was a recycled bridge in the first place, wasn't it? From the Army
Corps
or
engineered bridges were engineered concrete structures. They're actually, you know, I know people, the perception is they're not good, but they're actually very well engineered. I have had 4 total engineers out on that bridge and under that bridge and several of the other 1-lane bridges, and they all say these were really well built. And CDOT inspects our bridges, all the bridges in the county, every 2 years, and most of the 19 bridges that we have that are the Army Corps of Engineer bridges in this county actually inspect very well. So this one has not inspected the greatest over the years, and then the flooding sure didn't help it.
In my view, we need to do this engineering study.
Yeah, so just to be clear, you feel pretty confident, though, this will be reimbursed money?
What's that?
You feel pretty confident this money would be reimbursed?
Yeah, the Federal Highway Administration system and process that we've experienced already on both, well, I should say all 3 County Road 13 jobs that we did and County Road 102 east of the town of Elbert, they've been very professional, easy to work with, and they've committed to reimburse 100% on that. They have already committed that if we can get this done by March 24th, it will for sure 100% reimbursement.
Very good.
Even if we miss that date for some odd reason, because for engineers to work up something like that does take several months, so it's going to be close. It's still 80-20. They would do 80, we'd do 20.
And we have fun if we have to go that route.
As if I recall, the FEMA reimbursement is 80-20 regardless, I mean, at best.
FEMA is 80-20. FEMA never goes to 100%.
Right.
So this is a better scenario for the county financially.
No, I appreciate that. And this, once we have the engineering solution prepared, that then allows us potentially to seek other grants. I know annually there's a state grant for off-system bridges, and we're much more competitive if we actually have a problem and a solution, and the whole shovel-ready piece, I think. So.
And yes, and even once we have the engineering and we decide to pull the trigger on the repair, go out to bid and all that, we still have several years, I think it's 3 to 4 years, with these folks and FEMA both to get the work done, and then there's the whole 80-20 factor still involved.
Okay. No, and I think parallel with this, not the same subject, but we have a grant writer that was brought in this year within the finance department who has been working diligently to understand what the needs of the county are and seek grants. And I know last week was successful in getting one for several $100,000 to address some concrete failing on the bridge on 166. So there's a lot we're looking up in a lot of ways that we just didn't have the capacity in years past to look for the money that everybody believes is available in grants, but takes an awful lot of work to pull in. So obviously this is needed. As you said the bridge is still usable. Have we reduced load limits, or is it just
all the engineers that have inspected it, to include CDOT. CDOT went out after the flooding and inspected those bridges because it was well known the event that happened. They've all deemed it safe for travel. The 170 bridge, which is directly west of Agate, they did make us reduce the weight limit across that bridge until we can work up a fix for that bridge or replacement.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but this one and the 178 bridges and the 170 bridge are still safe for vehicles to travel across.
Yeah, safe, but again, as you said, still narrow, and really, I mean, they'll carry traffic, but one lane and not in the safest way when you're coming from 2 lanes to 1. So I don't think, would anybody object taking this to action today?
No, I would like to see this taken to an action item.
Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to make comment?
You said several $100,000 for the engineering reserves.
Yeah.
Tighter number for that?
Yeah, I can give it to you.
Yeah, the question was there a number? And actually, it's in our staff packet. It was $305,700. So, and if 100% reimbursed is a good thing. So.
And actually, to me, that's, I mean, it is a lot of money, but it's below the normal threshold of a bridge engineering, because in the grant process that you were discussing that we've done with Ashley, a lot of bridge engineering workups typically average $400,000 to $500,000. So this company works very well with us.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I mean, it is all taxpayer money, but in this case, it's some returning to us that we've probably sent forward to the federal government, so in our income taxes. So. With that, we do have a motion. Or no, I didn't call for a motion, so we do have an agreement to take this to action. So I would accept a motion to move forward with this.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we move this engineering cost for County Road 162 bridge to an action item.
And approve that as one.
Oh, you want to do it all as one? And also approve such engineering request for County Road 162 bridge replacement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to take this to action and approve engaging Kimberly Horn to do the engineering work to replace this bridge.
Yes.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
All right. Now we'll move on to the long-awaited approval of the minutes from the January 8th special meeting. As I said, this was our public hearing on next year's budget. It was held the day after the vote on HH. We've had some changes in analysis and stuff since then, but it relatively holds to the numbers that we had looked at. So I would ask that when these minutes are filed or recorded, that we include the presentation that was given that day as well. But with that, I would accept a motion to approve those minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the November 8th, 2023 special meeting minutes as written and dispense with the reading of those minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the November 8th special meeting and dispense with the reading. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Next, we have consideration of minutes from our regular meeting on November 15th. I would accept a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the minutes from November 15th, 2023 as written and dispense with the reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of November 15th and dispense with the reading. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The next we have is a consideration of a transfer of a liquor license to the new owners of Meadows Market in Sun Country. Amanda?
Good morning, whatever time. It's almost afternoon. This is a consideration of a transfer of liquor license from the PG1 LLC to GVD Enterprise. They are also, that's the owner of the property now. They're going to lease the property to DL Siblings, Inc., DBA Meadows Market. The application was submitted for the liquor license transfer in November, and the property was purchased in October. Temporary liquor license was granted to allow uninterrupted business while we go through the process of the transfer. The required forms and fees have been submitted and background checks have been completed. There's no concerns, and staff recommends approval of the liquor license transfer. Applicant is here today if you have any questions. It's Govin.
Do we have any questions for staff or for the applicant?
Not yet.
Not seeing anyone. Any concerns or anything the applicant would like to add? Okay, seeing none. Again, this is a little different. This is a transfer of a license. When we establish a new liquor license, it's done in public hearing, but since the sale of alcohol has already been approved, this is more of an administrative function to make sure that the new owners, the new holders of the license meet all the statutory requirements and regulatory requirements, and as we've heard, they do. So I would accept a motion to transfer this license.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the transfer of the liquor license from PG1, LLC, doing business as Meadows Market, to DL Siblings, Inc., doing business as Meadows Market.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to execute the transfer of the license for Meadows Market. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. All righty. So moving on, we had, Tiffany, could you come on up? We had noticed a public hearing for the adoption of the 24 budget for today. We will open that hearing and continue it to our next meeting. There's still some some details to work out based on legislation that came out of the special session that was held after our public hearing on the budget. So, Tiffany, did you have any updates for us beyond that?
Other than just the suggestions from the finance department that were delivered to you guys on Monday, waiting for your feedback, and then we can speak to departments from there for the cuts that we have suggested.
Okay. Yeah, so for those, I guess as a result of some of the legislation that came out of the special session, we're expecting slightly smaller revenues to the general fund primarily. So what we're looking at doing is what we always do, that there are no recurring expenses that exceed what our anticipated revenues are doing, that we never set ourselves up for not being able to maintain our critical services. And so there's a few other, a little more examination of the budget and a little bit of cutting that we have to do to maintain that operations within the anticipated revenues and not cutting into fund balance, because our intent, as it was expressed at the public hearing, is to use fund balance to provide property tax relief in the coming year. So, any other questions? That's kind of where we're at. So we will open the hearing, continue to next week. And so I would accept a motion to open the public hearing on the 2024 budget.
Mr. Chair, I move we open the public hearing on adoption of the 2024 Elbert County budget.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to open public hearing on the 2024 budget. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. I would accept a motion to continue this hearing until 9 a.m. on December 27th, and this will be back at our regular location in the county building.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we continue this public hearing to December 27th, 2023, our normal meeting at 9 a.m. in the regular location.
Second.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second to continue the hearing to December 27th at 9 a.m. at our regular meeting location at the county building. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, and I would accept a motion to close hearing on this item at this time.
Mr. Chair, I move that we close the public hearing on the adoption of the 2024 Elbert County budget.
Second.
A motion and a second to close hearing at this time. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. So moving on to board planning, obviously our next meeting will be continuing our hearings for adoption of the budget and setting of mill levies and appropriations. It's a fairly quick process, but do we have any other items you'd like to pick up at that time? No. And then we had asked to probably have a little more input on the contractor licensing at that time. So that'll get us started. Generally, we don't have a second meeting in December, but the legislature has required us to do otherwise because of that. Part of the legislation that was passed did provide extended timelines for passing a budget. It gave us, I think, until the 7th of January. What they didn't provide was any interim guidance. Our appropriations end on December 31st. We have some things like payroll and probably payments to vendors that need to be made in the first week of January. So we felt it wise not to accept the extension and actually pass a budget before the end of the year. So we actually start the year with funds appropriated for expenditures. That's the business we have for this morning. We do have several land use items this afternoon. We'll be picking back up at 1 p.m. At this location to consider those land use applications. The time is 10:48 and we are in recess. Thank you for coming out this morning.